Now that you know the what and why of reverse ETL, now it's time to do the how part. And so I'm a big fan of getting right to it and getting stuff done. In fact, I've done a video on getting stuff done, and that's why I've chosen to demo using Census. And you can go to the website getcensus.com. Their tagline here, syncing customer data shouldn't be this hard, crossed out, it should be easy. And that's really why I like this platform. So I'm starting with a free account, and you can do the exact same thing. I'm going to tell you why this is so easy when we get to what I think the hard part is, and why Census does a really good job of being able to connect this data. So let's go ahead and log in. I'm going to use in this example a Gmail account that I have. If you don't, you can just log in with an email address, but everyone has a Gmail account, right? So why not do it that way? So I'm going to sign in with Google. It knows me, and it's going to get me right in. Now, when you launch Census for the first time, you are going to be on the Quick Start page. And so I'm going to keep navigating back to the Quick Start page because I've already done this before in preparation for the video. In fact, a lot of times when I produce this content, I'm looking for platforms that work well, that allow me to get up and running quickly. And again, that's why I chose Census in this case. So first thing you can do is watch a demo on this. And in their example, they're going through Salesforce example, being able to connect customer data. It's definitely worth your time to watch that 5-minute video and understand what's going on there. Now, in my example, I'm connecting to a Google Sheet, and you're probably thinking, Nathan, that's not a data warehouse. And yes, I agree, it's not a data warehouse, but we want to do this quickly and show you how fast you can get this running. So we're going to do Google Sheets. Now, I need to set up an organization, and I've previously done that. Part of your step will be giving your organization a name. I've given it the name Tailored Analytics. That's my last name, apostrophe D. It's actually a really good name. I may have to use that. And an email address where the notifications are going to be sent. That's my Gmail account. And of course, I can connect it to Slack and choose a time zone. Save those settings, and then we'll be back at the Quick Start page. Now I can select my data warehouse, which is really my Google Sheet here. All right, and so I've added it before, deleted it. I'm just going to go through these steps again. So I'm going to choose add a data source from the drop-down list. In my next video, the part 2 of this, I'm going to use Redshift, so an actual data warehouse at this point. So here I'm going to use Google Sheets to connect to my data source here. Now, it's going to give me an email address, a really funky looking email address, but an email address nonetheless. I'm going to go ahead and click the copy button because I'm going to need that email address here in a moment. All right, so that part's done with the data source. I'm going to go back to Quick Start. And then we can complete the data warehouse setup here if we want to. There's some additional steps to go through. I've already done that with the Google Sheets. And then we're going to go into connect your first service. And in this case, I'm going to connect to Mailchimp. And just to show you how easy this is, I've not used Mailchimp before. So I'm running through this kind of like a noob, like maybe some of you are in this particular process. So I'm going to add a service. There's a multitude of services here. We're going to choose Mailchimp, okay? So I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to be brought over to the Mailchimp website, and I've previously created an account, so that's my Twitter handle, Reaper of Data, and then I have to enter a password here, which I have saved. So we're going to go ahead and enter the password here, and then click Login. Now, you have to allow or authorize, basically verify that you trust Census. And in this case I do, so we're going to go ahead and click Allow. That same process, similar process is what we're going to do with the Google Sheets here in a minute. So it's connected. I can click Test, and I recommend you do test. I've already tested previously, so I'm not going to do that right now. So we have the source and the destination set up, so we can go back and set up the sync. Now, before we do the sync piece, let me go into the Google Sheet that I've created, and that's called Avengers Healthcare Member. So I've sort of created this fictitious group of people that I imagine would need subscription to healthcare services. They get in fights a lot and get beat up. So I've created a bunch of superheroes and even some villains in here. So we've got Steve Rogers, Captain America. We've got Thanos in here, and I've given them domains that are kind of cool, right? So all of those people are added, their email address, and then Mailchimp needs to know their status. Are they subscribed, unsubscribed? Are they pending verification? And then what email type do they have, like HTML or text? And I've given this a bit of data validation here. So within Google Sheets, just like Excel, you can go to the Data tab and choose Data Validation and create drop-down lists for these, which is what I've done, and that's what's sitting in the Data Validation tab. The ranges for the drop-downs are on that Data Validation sheet. Okay, so all of those are set up here. Now, to go back and talk about the sync piece, the connection, why I needed to copy this email address out of here, because when I'm in Google Sheets, what I need to do is go to Share, all right, and enter in the email address that I'm sharing the sheet with, and then hit Enter. See how my cursor's flashing here? And hit Enter. All right, and then once I do that, I can choose what permissions I want, and they can be editor. I can notify them, it's fine, and then click Send. And when this is done, it's going to tell me that a person was added. Now, I'll tell you, the first time I went through this, I entered the email address and then just saved it. And that wasn't the right way to do it. Make sure you paste the email address in and hit the Enter key, and then choose the editor as the permissions, and the person is added. Okay, so now I can go back into Census and go back to Quick Start, and now I can do my sync piece. All right, so we don't have any syncs added yet, so let's add one. And I'm doing Google Sheet again as my data warehouse. And then I can click the down arrow on my spreadsheet, and that Avengers Healthcare Members is listed there. If it's not, just click refresh. If you still don't see it, then you didn't do something right with the sharing, and go through that process again. On the drop down for sheets, I don't want the data validation sheet, I want the member sheet. So my source is set up. Now I need to choose where am I syncing this data to, and in this case I only have this one connection, Mailchimp, and I only have one audience in Mailchimp called Tailored Analytics, so that's fine. Now the process here is going to be update or create. If the record already exists, we'll update it. If it doesn't exist, we'll create it brand new. In this case, there's nothing there, so it will be created. And now the really cool piece, this is what I think makes this easy rather than hard, and it's the way that we're going to do visual data mapping. So inside Mailchimp, it needs an email address. That's the identifier, okay? So that's what's chosen here for me by default. And then in the Google Sheets side, I need to tell it where the email address is, and that's in this column here, email_address, okay? Now that I have the identifier linked, there are two other required columns of data, or fields of data. One's the email address, which we already did, and the other one's the status. And if you remember, that's the subscribed, unsubscribed, pending, and so on. So from the source data set, the source Google Sheet, where is the status column? So I'm going to hit the down arrow and say that was status_if_new. Okay, and we'll choose that. Now I have one other mapping I want to add, so we'll go ahead and click Add Mapping. And from the Google Sheet, there is a field in there called email type. There are also a bunch of other fields that we could map to on the Mailchimp side, but we'll choose email type, and it has some logic. It was able to figure that email_type is an email type. If it wasn't, I could choose a different field. So that's correct. So now I have that additional non-required field added, and that, again, the beauty of it, how easy it was to do this visual mapping. Now, I can run a test, and I would highly recommend you do if you're doing this for the first time. It will just add a single record. We're not going to do that in the demo. I'm going to go ahead and click Next to actually do the full sync. So it's going to tell me where am I mapping these fields from the Google Sheet to Mailchimp. That looks good. It's going to do an update or create, and this will be a full sync. And I'm going to go ahead and run this now. Okay, let's go ahead and create sync. And now I'm on the status page. So it's spinning, the sync is running, It's uploading the data from my data warehouse, aka Google Sheet, and then loading the data into the destination service. And when it's done, it should tell me that it was synced X number of seconds or minutes ago once it's finished running here. So we'll let that spin off. It's only 10 records or so, so this shouldn't take too long to go ahead and add those records into the destination service. Okay, the sync is complete. So now let's go over into Mailchimp and see what showed up over there. So I'm going to head over to that tab, and we're going to go to the all contacts for my audience here and see which contacts got loaded into my data set here. So I just have 5 because I do have a filter applied that's a part of this particular segment that I have loaded. But we can see Steve Rogers in here, and this particular contact has HTML as their preferred email type. I'm just going to go ahead and validate that HTML was selected there, so that looks good. And let's find another one. Let's say that what was Tony Stark's choice was HTML. Bruce Banner was HTML. Let's see if there's anything else. What Thor chose was text. So let's go ahead and take a look at Thor and see if text is correct for them. So that looks good. I like it. Now we're going to do one other thing as part of this. This is just on the fly. I'm going to add in another change into it, and that's to go and look at Steve Rogers' account. Now I've previously tested this before, and there's a VIP setting here, and what we're going to do is we're going to remove that VIP setting for Steve Rogers, but we're going to go back and add it in, but we're going to do it through the Google Sheet. So I'm going to create a column in here, and I'm just going to call it VIP in lowercase, and we're going to set it to true for Steve Rogers and false for everybody else. Now this is on the fly. I don't really know if this is going to work. I haven't done this piece before, sort of making this up as I go along. I'm guessing that this is sort of the way the API works. Now, you don't have to do this guesswork. If you're going to do this for real, you can go and look at the documentation for Mailchimp. I'm doing this just to show you how easy this is to make changes. So I've added VIP. It gets automatically saved in Google Sheets, right, on the cloud. So now we're going to go back into the syncs portion of this where we are. We're gonna make some changes, some configuration changes here to the way that the sync works. And I'm gonna go to the map fields, and I'm gonna choose edit. All right, and I'm gonna add in a mapping, and the mapping I'm going to add is that VIP tag. And in the source data set, I have to find it. Now, when I click this down arrow, VIP isn't going to be in there because it doesn't know what it is. So we're going to click refresh fields. We'll wait for that to come through, and then hit the down arrow again, and now VIP in lowercase is in there, and now I can update it. All right, now here's another cool part. It knows, it's telling me I added the VIP to VIP mapping into the set, and we're going to go ahead and run the sync now and then update it. I'm going to go back to the overview page, and it's running the sync, and we're going to go ahead and let that run for a few moments here. Shouldn't take very long, and then check out the data once it's been loaded. Okay, the update has finished running, and what's really neat is in the recent activity section here, I can see that that last sync shows that I added the VIP field into Mailchimp. So let's go back into Mailchimp. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the contacts again that I have, and we're going to look specifically at Steve Rogers. That's the person who I added the VIP status to, and now it's showing up in there accurately. Okay, so that's it for this really quick demo on using the Google Sheets. For part 2, I'm going to go ahead and pull data from Redshift, from an actual data warehouse, and we're going to do some manipulation to that data, some formatting to get it into a place where I want to then upload that into Mailchimp. So that's going to be part 2.